Yes, good morning, guys. Yeah, yesterday we discussed a few points on the first and the second chapter of systematic review. So today we are going to cover the third chapter, the fourth, the fifth, and then conclusion. But the most important part for those who have never written a systematic review, methodology is the most important. I'm going to detail every subtopic of this chapter so that you won't face challenges. For those who I will also share some documents with the guidance on how to write this part because it is the most important part in this dissertation. Now, systematic review is a methodology. The same way you say I'm going to collect primary data, the same way you say I'm going to do like literature review. Systematic review is a method. So in this chapter, you explain how you do, how you search your sources, how you systematically exclude some to remain with the most relevant and high quality sources, the ones now that you read keenly and get your answers to your research questions. So I'm going to be very clear, and I'm going to cover every subtopic in detail so that you can be able to understand how we go for each step. So this is now the third step of systematic review. The third step. So as I already said in chapter 1 and chapter 2, every time you're starting a chapter, it's not only in a systematic review. Every time you're doing a project and then you are starting you're beginning a chapter, make sure the first subtopic is chapter overview. So for this one, you start with the 3.1, which is chapter overview. I think you know what to write here, the aim of the chapter, and what will follow after this up to the conclusion. So now the second subtopic, in this case, the second subtopic, I want you guys to get the concept here. I want you guys to understand everything. I want you guys to be able now to differentiate between systematic review and the other projects that you have written before, because it will be a little bit different. So after giving an overview of the chapter, you go to the second. You go to the second subtopic, which is the research approach. You go to the research approach. I'm going to give you just the basic concept, just a few points on what you are supposed to write in this section, which is now the research approach. And the research approach, you just explain the approach that has been used in your project. The approach in this case, for example, we have interpretism, we have positivism, we have those kinds of approaches. So you're going to detail that approach here. Are you going to derive your conclusion from ideas existing ideas? So in this case, for example, in systematic review, you read and understand what previous scholars have said about a topic, and you derive your conclusion, or you answer your research questions from that the knowledge that you get from the review. So in this case, I think for systematic review, it will be positivism approach that is used. Then you go to 3.3, which is the research design. Just like any other project, when you're writing the research design stands for procedures that are used in collection and analysis of your data. In this case, we are collecting secondary data. Data, in this case, the secondary data is existing literature on our topic of discussion. So, and then we are reviewing it. From the data, we are analyzing that data to get our what? To get answers to our research questions or to achieve our research objectives. So you explain that. You just say that in this case, you're going to collect secondary data, which is existing literature on your topic, and then you are going to analyze it. But don't forget the word systematic review. You are going to do this thing in a systematic manner. So there's a way you are going to collect this data systematically and analyze it systematically. Now, here is where now you come up with what we call systematic review. You give, you justify why are you going to use systematic review. So at the end of this subtopic, at the end of this subtopic, at the end you are supposed to say, you give a reason and say, this is why we are going. These are the reasons as to why we are going to use systematic review. So I just say that we are going to collect existing literature, which is secondary data. We are going to collect it systematically and analyze it also in a systematic manner. Why are you doing this? Why are you not able to collect data? Make sure you justify that. And then at the end, you say that these are the reasons as to why I'm going to use systematic review. So in the fourth subtopic will be now systematic review. You now explain it in detail. You explain what is systematic review, right? You are supposed to come up to cite your work at this point now. Give a reason as to why you are using a systematic review and not data collection. You can give advantages and you can also give disadvantages and criticize them. Say that in this case, they are not going to have a huge impact because you're going to address this in this way. So here you give advantages of systematic review and generally give a reason as to why your project will be based on systematic review. Mainly, we use systematic review when we are not able to collect primary data. Because, for example, during COVID-19 era, it was very difficult. Even now, it is very difficult to collect data directly from the participants because physical contact will increase COVID-19 infection rate. So you give reasons as to why you have used systematic review and not the other method. I think up to that point, it is clear on what you are going to write in that section. I'm going to give percentage of the word count for each of these sections. After systematic review now, after you have said the reason for using systematic review in your project, you go now to the types of studies that you will use. So our fifth subsection is types of studies. Which sources are you going to incorporate? Which sources are you going to use? Which studies are you going to specifically use in your study? This is what you cover here. For example, you can see that, assume, for example, my topic, I'm using the topic of menstrual hygiene management. Assume that, for example, assume menstrual hygiene management is your dissertation topic. Now, specify the studies that you are going to use. You can say, for example, I'm going to use only studies that are focused on premenopausal women and adolescent girls in India. You can say, for example, you're going to focus on menstrual on studies that are on sources that have studied issues of menstrual hygiene management in developing countries. Specify which kinds of studies are you going to use. That is what we do in that subsection. In the sixth subtopic, will be 3.6. Here you talk about types of participants. In this case, who are you going to study? For example, in my case, I'm talking about menstrual hygiene management. Who are the participants in this case? Who are you going to study? Where is your study going to? Like, for example, if it is menstrual hygiene management, I'm talking about people who undergo menstruation. So I'm talking about premenopausal women who have not reached their menopause stage, and I'm talking about adolescent girls because menstruation starts from adolescence up to menopause. So I'm talking about that gap. Women between the age of adolescent and menopause. So you're talking about adolescent girls and premenopausal women. So in your study, you're supposed to be specific on which population you are going to study. Who will be your participants? Which proportion of the population are you going to study? From there, you go to, I think it will just be discussion in this section. There's nothing unique, but I'm going to be very detailed on the most unique subtopics of this chapter. So from there, you go to types of outcome measures. Types of outcome measures. Now, under types of outcome measures, you focus on the outcome. For example, what will you be measuring in your study? For example, in my case, assume I was talking about, there's a sample that I'm going to share here. From the sample, you'll be able to get exactly what I'm saying. Like, for example, if I was talking about menstrual hygiene management, how can you measure that? How can you measure an improvement in menstrual hygiene management? What outcome measures are you going to focus on? For example, what can you observe and conclude whether if there has been an improvement or deterioration in menstrual hygiene management? So you just measure that. What are you going to measure? The outcome measure. That is what to discuss here. In here, it is very brief, 2 or 3 lines, just briefly, you go straight to the point. That's what you guys will cover in this section. From the sample that I'm going to share, you get clearly what I'm talking about. So make sure you understand the topic first, and then you'll be able to explain exactly what are your outcomes, because I know you guys have different topics and the outcomes vary from one topic to another. The outcomes are not the same. So what will be your outcome? What will you be measuring? That's what is needed in this section. And then in section 8, section 8, is it section 8 or section 9? I think I have covered section 8 of, I think I have covered section 9. Okay, yeah. Now in section 8, we are now started the real systematic review now. This is where now systematic review starts. So our 8th section will be inclusion and exclusion criteria. Inclusion and exclusion criteria. I want to be very clear on this one because I'm sure that there's a big number of my viewers who have not heard about this concept. Remember, in systematic review, for example, if you're searching about menstrual hygiene management, you get a lot of sources that have talked about that. You cannot view all of them. So you have to remain with the most relevant sources in your dissertation, and the high quality. In high quality, I'm talking about that dissertation. I'm talking about so here you explain the procedure that you will use to sieve, to filter the sources that you will get. For example, you will search. For example, assume we will search our sources in Google Scholar. Once you search, you get a lot of sources. So how are you going to remove the irrelevant ones and low quality ones so that you can remain with the most relevant current ones and highly quality sources? So here you explain how you are going to get quality sources that are closely related to your topic. And don't forget about the word about the currency of the source. So here, in inclusion and exclusion, you just explain which sources are you going to exclude, which sources are you going to remove from the long list of the sources that you'll get. That's what you explain here. It is very simple, guys. So assume, for example, we are searching our sources in Google Scholar. Once you search something in Google Scholar, because I know most of us have used Google Scholar, you can use Google Scholar, you can use ProQuest. We call those search engines. That's where we do our search from. Now, once you search your sources from those search engines, you get a long list of sources. So what do you do so that you remain with a few that are closely related to your objectives, that are current, and that are high quality? That's what we explain here. So under exclusion, for example, you can say that you'll exclude sources published before 2010 so that you can remain with the current ones. You can say you'll exclude low quality sources. So when you talk about exclusion of low quality sources, you'll have to do quality assessment. You have to, for the sources that you get, you have to assess their quality. You have to use there are many tools that are available online that you can use. You can use Capsim. You can use, there are very many quality assessment tools. You get them online. You just assess each source and then you classify whether it is low, medium, or high quality. So you can see that I'll exclude those that were published before 2010. I'll exclude those that have not used English language, because if you come across a source that have used French, you'll not be able to read it and get anything from it. So you exclude, for example, published before 2010. You will exclude those that have not used English. You'll also exclude those that do not focus on, for example, in my case, I'm focusing on India. I'll exclude those that are not focused on India. So you explain, you list the criteria now, the criteria that you're going to use in exclusion of irrelevant and sources that are low quality and sources that cannot help you achieve your research objectives. That's what you explain here under exclusion and inclusion criteria. From there, you go to section 9. You go to section 9. I think I explained. There's a video that I shared last time whereby we talked about the criteria you use to come up with such terms. What do you feed in your search engines so that you get now these sources? We talked about that. You remember we talked about concept 1, concept 2, concept 3, or how we use and or to combine the words and get a very good search. So we talked about that. I think I can still share that video here. So from after discussing inclusion and exclusion criteria, now you go to the other. You go to the ninth subsection, which is now the search strategy. Search strategy. What are you going to search? Where are you going to search? And what, for example, as I've said, we talked about the use of and or to combine our terms and get combination of terms that will effectively give us closely related sources. So if you have that, it is very simple. The first thing that you do, you explain the search engines that you are going to use. If you are using Google Scholar and ProQuest, you say that I'm going to use Google Scholar and ProQuest as the search engines. I'm going to search this and this. I'm going to search this combination and this combination. Once I get my sources, for example, once you have searched, you'll now use the inclusion and exclusion criteria to exclude those sources that are not relevant and that are not of high quality. Once you do, you just explain how you're going to do your search. Simple. From the sample that I'm going to share with you guys, you're going to get exactly what I'm talking about. So you talk about the search engines that you're going to use. You say that you're going to use to combine the terms using and or, and then you explain how you give a word, you give Let me share with you an example of a search that I did some time before, or I can search from from online. Let me search and then give an example of a search that was once done. For example, this one. Check this one, for example. From this dissertation, which I don't know the author. This is the combination of such terms that he searched. For example, I shared something on concept 1, concept 2, concept 3, up to concept 5, how you come up with them. For example, from those who attended that class, you remember we discussed about the first, second, third, fifth, and the fourth and fifth concept. You remember how we did that. So now this is what you search: 2 and 3. You take 2, put and then you copy paste 3, and then click search. If it was Google Scholar, you get sources. Once you get those sources, on your left side, you'll see criteria that you can implement there. For example, you'll find that you can exclude sources published before 2010. You exclude them. You can exclude those that do not focus on India. You exclude them. You can exclude those that do not talk about MHM. You exclude them, and then you exclude them from the search engine. On the right side, on the left side, we have that we have that there's a place where you can filter. Actually, it is filtering. You can filter sources that are irrelevant based on the exclusion criteria that you have provided, and then you search this. If you have another combination, you search it, and for each combination, exclude. For the sources that you remain with, you still search them more, because now this exclusion at this stage, you're excluding them based on the filtering tools provided by the search engine. Assume, for example, your engine does not provide an option whereby you can exclude sources published in other languages other than English. So there is a time that you'll have to open those sources and go through them so that you can decide whether you'll include or exclude them. So in our 10th in our 10th subsection, subheading in this topic, you talk about screening. Now you talk about screening. As I have said, you will not be able to exclude all sources from the search engine. Some search engines will only provide you with an option of excluding sources published before 2010. So in this case, you will not be able to exclude low quality sources. You will not be able to exclude sources that are not relevant. You will not be able to exclude sources based on other criteria that you have listed in exclusion and exclusion. So you have to read the source. You have to open that source and read it so that you can make a decision on whether to include or exclude it. That is called screening. Now we are talking about screening. There is another document that I'll share with you guys on how we do screening. There's another document that I'm going to share with you guys on how we do screening. Are you getting me, guys? Let me repeat this. There is a document I'm going to share with you on how we do screening. For screening, if, for example, if you have done your search in a Sinhal, or let me use Google Scholar, for example. If you have done your search using Google Scholar, and you had, for example, you had 1,000. After search, you got 1,000 sources. You exclude them based on time, you remain with the 700. You exclude those that do not use English language, you remain with 55. You exclude those who do not focus in India, you remain with 33, for example. If you remain with 33, you have to open them. You have to screen them. So that screening starts from the topic and abstract. There are those sources that will determine whether they are relevant from the topic, or from the title, or from the title of the source and the abstract. So screening would be will be categorized into two. There will be screening based on the title and the abstract. For example, if you open it and find that the title and the abstract are talking about they give you an idea that the source will provide very relevant information, you include. If from the title and abstract you find that it cannot provide relevant information, you exclude. That is exclusion and an inclusion based on the title and abstract. That is screening. Also, after that, you go to screening based on the full text. There are some sources that will not have full text. If a source does not have freely available, you cannot buy sources. You have a lot of sources on it. You have to focus on those whose full text is freely available. So if from once you screen them based on the title and the abstract, you also open their full text. If the full text is not available, you exclude. If the full text is available, you go through it, you read it through to determine whether it is relevant or useful in your project. So in exclusion, you talk about which sources did you exclude from the title and abstract, and based on title and abstract outcome, you specify them. Which ones did you exclude based on screening full text outcome, based on reading of the full text? You also talk about them. Then you remain with the last ones whose PDF full text is freely available and those are closely related with your topic, with your objective. Those are the ones that you read and understand. You read severally, understand, and use the knowledge obtained to answer your research questions. That's what we call screening. So we have now remained with the last resources now that we use in that we will use in writing, in answering our research question. That's what we call screening. I think I have been very clear in that case. So with the screening, this is where EndNote and Excel comes from. Once you open your search engine, for example, if it is Google Scholar, if you open it, you have to export the sources in a platform whereby you can compare all of them. So we do this. You export them from the search engine. For example, if it is Google Scholar, you export them from Google Scholar to Excel. I'll share a document detailing. If you cannot manage that section, I can do it for you. You can give me a link of the sources that you have found, and then I will export them for you to Excel. I'll share a guideline. There's a document that I've written detailing every step that you follow when exporting your sources from the library or from the Google Scholar or any search engine that you use to Excel. You will do screening from the Excel. The first column will be the source and the title and then abstract. The third column will be exclusion based on title and abstract outcomes. You see whether you exclude or include. For those that you include, you read their full text. From the full text, if it is available, you read it. If it is not available, you directly go to straight to see exclude. And then, so you'll have column 1, exclusion based on title and full text, and column 2, exclusion based on full text reading, exclusion based on full text outcome. That is the last. So the ones that you will be indicated include are the ones now that we call them the articles that have been used, that have been reviewed. Those are the articles that you read severally and use the knowledge obtained and their conclusion and their findings to answer your research questions. I think I've been clear in that part. So I will share a document detailing how you come up with how you do the exportation and importation in Excel. How you export from search engines to EndNote. You have to take it from the search engine to EndNote and then from EndNote to Excel. So you should have knowledge on the use of EndNote. You should have knowledge on on how we do things with Excel. So you should have EndNote and Excel knowledge. So, but for this section, you have challenges. Once you get your sources and you want to import them in Excel, I can help. But it is detailed very clearly in a document that I'm going to share with you guys. So I think I've been clear on screening. So you have to explain that process screening. You say that I'm going to, I will export sources, the sources that I'll get from the search engines to EndNotes, and then from EndNotes to Excel for screening purposes. So how are you going to screen? First of all, you're going to screen them based on the title and abstract. For those that will be found to be relevant based on the title and abstract outcome, they will be their full text will be also be evaluated. And then what are you evaluating these sources against? You're comparing the outcome with what? You're combining their conclusion with what? How are you determining whether they are relevant? Say that you are going to check whether they answer any of the research questions. They are able to provide relevant information for achieve that can help achieve any of the research objectives of your study. So I think from the sample that I'm going to share, you get that one exactly. You get it. Now from there, from screening, we go to the 11th subtopic in this chapter, which is quality assessment. I don't like cases whereby people exclude sources that are of poor quality, because when you go to corpus and do sources, you come across sources that have been published by accredited individuals in their fields. So I will not advise you guys to exclude sources based on their quality. Exclude just classify them. Just classify them as low quality, medium, and high. And make sure you give priority based on if it is a high quality source, you give it high priority in your review. So under quality assessment, say that I'm going to use this tool to assess the quality of the sources, and then I will not use this. I will not exclude sources based on their quality. I'm going to classify them from low to high quality, and then give priority to the sources during review. Give priority to the sources based on their level of quality. Just see that, as simple as that. But that's what they have done in the sample that I'm going to share with you. From there, you go to data extraction. Now, once you have gotten your last sources. Let's say, for example, you have got 6 sources. The ones that are closely the ones that have met the exclusion inclusion criteria, the ones that from the criteria that they have met all the requirements. Those are the sources that we extract data from. So during data extraction, you have to read. If you have 6, you have to read them. You read them, you make your own notes. You read the second one, you make your own notes, and then summarize them in a table. You can summarize them in a table. You can have a table with for example, you can have a table with column 1, author, year of publication, design used. You can have some sample size. You can have the outcome measures that were being measured. You can have another column with the conclusion made. So like so let me make it so assume this is author or others, because it can be authored by 1 or 2 people. And from there you go to year of publication, then you go to design or the method used, and then you go to sample size or participants, sample size. Then you go to outcome measures. What were they measured in that study? And then the conclusion that was made. You extract the data now. When you extract data, you summarize it in a way that during a discussion, you'll be getting information directly. Just don't strain trying to identify where you got this knowledge. So once you summarize your sources here. Let's see something. One of the sources that you have gotten, one of the few sources now that you are reviewing. One was written by Perfect in the year 2020. It has used positive sim design, experimental. No, it has used, for example, experimental. It had a sample size of 20 and included individuals. It included adolescent girls or school girls, for example, in my topic. And what were you measuring? You were measuring what was the outcome measured? What outcome were they measuring in their study? What conclusion did they make? You summarize all of them. That is what we call data extraction. So you're supposed to say that I will use a table with this column to extract data from the sources that I'm going to get. That is what you do in that section. And then we have the team section of this chapter. We have the team. We have we have a team section which is data analysis. Under data analysis, you're going to explain how you're going to analyze your data. Once you have extracted data from the sources, how are you going to analyze it so that you come up with answers to your research questions? How do you analyze that data? We use things like thematic analysis. You can, from after reading the sources, you identify themes, common issues. You identify themes. That is what we call thematic analysis. You can also do content analysis. So you just read about those two things. So here you explain what are you going to use, what analysis method are you going to use. So in this case, if it was me, for example, if it is a topic, this topic, I talk about thematic analysis. After reading those sources, I identified common issues, and then those who became my themes. Then I detailed on them, and then got answers of my research from the themes. And then from there, we go to ethical consideration. What ethical issues did you expect to meet, to face in this project, and what strategies did you lay down for the purpose of addressing them? That is what you discuss here. Ethical considerations, ethical issues, how you have planned to address them. That is what exactly you discuss here. And don't forget, this is semantic. We are not collecting data. We are reviewing existing data. So make sure you're very creative in this section. Then the last section is conclusion. I think with conclusion, we just talk briefly of you see that you have used systematically. You just give a conclusion mark, like just a summary of what you'll do, and anything that you found important to state at this stage. So this is what you cover in this section. I'm happy, guys, you have understood this concept, and I'm going to share some materials. One of the materials will be on how you export from Excel, and not from Excel, from the research engines to EndNote, and how you bought from the EndNote to Excel. That is what I'm going to share. I'm also going to share a sample, and also there's another document, that the document on how you come up with this, how you combine these search tags. I'm going also to share that document so that you guys do not face any challenges when because this is now the procedure that you follow. Once you detail it clearly, you just follow the same procedure in doing your search and doing your data extraction and doing quality assessment and all that. So you follow everything that I've shared here, and by so doing, guys, I'm sure you're going to structure to polish a very good dissertation that uses systematic review of the methodology. Thank you guys, and let's meet again in the next video, which will be about the fourth chapter. Yeah, the fourth chapter, which is on results, will be on the results. So I think after results now, discussion and conclusion is written the same way we do for other projects. So I'm going to also be specific on a very important point that you should consider when writing your results section. Thank you guys. Bye bye.